double check real fast. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe this is session, I'm losing track now, so I really have to check. I believe this is session number 8 of the GVDS Presents. This is a series we're doing all throughout the month of October, where we are featuring people that are in the innovation, design sprint, design thinking, forward-thinking business kind of categories. I'm bringing in people that I have known in my network, as well as people that have been in the Global Virtual Design Sprint before. So today, I'm very pleased to have with us, and I want to make sure I say your name, Friso, right? It's Friso Jankowsky, correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's perfect.
He is the head of the Business Technology and Innovation Center for Atos. He is a former Global Virtual Design Sprint attendee back in April when we had that 300+ madness that we were doing. He is also someone that I can say off script that we talked about this, where at one point in the last GVDS, I was literally throwing everybody at you that was saying, hey, this looks kind of cool. Do you mind if I come in and join the event? I said, sure. Who's available in Europe right now? Oh, it's Friso. Friso meets so-and-so. And I think I had about 8 different people over the course of 2 weeks that are just like, yeah, we want to join your team. Oh, my team crashed out. So he's a very accommodating person from experience.
This is nice, yeah. Thank you. It was a lot of fun, actually, but it was really like that. So, oh, yeah, Friso, I have another one for you. Oh, Friso, I have another one for you. Justin, yeah. Justin, there's one more, but that's okay. That's okay. And it worked out great.
Yeah, well, no, this November is a much different, because now it's much more, we're getting so much time to kind of get people where they're supposed to be. And then late add-ons are going to be something where they're probably not going to be as frequent, but they're going to come because of the challenge and who's leading it. So it's going to be a different dynamic this year, or at least this November. So that was kind of a very smorgasbord kind of introduction. So if you'd like to kind of distill it down to what you're all about and what you're currently doing and what you think is important to talk about, then please, you have the platform. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, that's perfect, and thank you very much. And yeah, I still love to remember the time, the first sprint I have done in April, which was just like great. And I would like to start with that because, you know, I just made the course and I was into design sprint. I just got the book because I attended a design thinking workshop, and as a giveaway, they gave out the book from Jay Knapp, Sprint. And I was then reading it. And I think like 2 days later, I found in the internet that you're doing a global virtual design sprint. I was like, here I am, I'm your facilitator. I don't know if you remember. Facilitate that thing.
Shut up.
And you were like, maybe you should co-facilitate. I was like, no, I'm taking that. That was just like an absolute awesome time. So this is also why I had to be back now here for the version 3.0. And as you mentioned, now in a new role, because I used to be a business developer for the Austrian Postal Service before. Now for 6 years, trying to set up new solutions or products that were based on data. So we were selling marketing data for better targeting with snail mail, which got pretty good. And at a certain point, I was changing a little bit because I got into design thinking, design sprint, and I was trying to find out what could work in a corporation like the Austrian Postal Service, which is in Austria, which is that huge country next to Germany, which is with about 23,000 employees, like one of the really big companies. And I found out that lightning decision jams, the thing you normally use to sell a design sprint, they worked out so good. So this was like a tremendous timing that I was like, that cannot happen. Before we made like meetings and thinking about new products and solutions, and I'm now taking all that time back to lightning decision jams, and within 90 minutes, you'll just go. And that was when I came in, but that even brought me to getting to know more people also from other businesses. And this is when I found the job offering from Atos. We were looking for a head of business technology and innovation center, which is my position right now, where they say we are doing innovation workshops with customers to help them with their problem finding, but also creating solutions, which we can afterwards deliver. And that was something charming. I said like, wow. So you're not just offering the process of being innovative or doing a sprint. You can deliver the whole story from the total beginning, whatever. You implement quantum computing solutions, IoT industry solutions where you're checking like everything in the process. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So this is why I had to sign up here. And now the logo changed from black and yellow to blue.
Well, blue suits you. And here's something else I can kind of add to that. The Lightning Decision Jam as a process seems to be something that is a vehicle to your point. It carries forward conversations with a diverse set of people, and it minimizes all of the conversation that happens around those topics and really gets to brass tacks. It literally, the structure of it kind of ensures that the folks that would normally derail a particular point of view or a conversation, did like derail a conversation, it actually nullifies that. So I've now, to this day, all this year, I've seen people in finance use it. I've seen people with that are in financial planning. There was one for leadership and one for training. There was one that was just talked about, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, about using the LDJ for relationships and being able to use it for marital counseling and psychology and things like that. So it's really interesting to see how it evolves with different categories, different disciplines.
Exactly. And as you're setting now up the Lightning Decision Gems for the upcoming sprints, I was thinking about like, okay, what can I tell you? Of course, where do I work and what is my normal work? But the thing that I really want to stress out, it's like how useful it is and what you can achieve in such a short time. And this is just amazing. But when you're telling me about it also can be used in relationships, I just thought of personal relationship because like the one thing what I wanted to say is why it is working best is because nobody is talking. So I'm just like thinking about like, oh, honey, how you doing? No, I don't tell you. I'm just not voting in on the refrigerator, and then you'll see afterwards. But regarding design sprints and really getting that to a start, it's like in the book you read, just start with it. But this is, and I think you can also commit to that. This is not sometimes not working because you have always the feeling if you start a sprint that you're not really sure if this is the topic you should go for. So having a lightning decision jam is just like, okay, 90 minutes, everyone together, and we're doing decisions in a very fast-paced way. We're drawing the sailboat, we're setting what is working good, we're getting the things that are not working good, and then the whole team is doing that decision. So from the beginning on, you have the buy-in. So if you're entering a sprint and have the buy-in of all the members because they voted for this, I think you will have more traction in the sprint and come to better solutions.
So how do you, with your responsibilities now, because I think you're about 4 or 5 months into over there at Atos, what are some of the things that you're doing as part of your role that are kind of defined as innovative or forward-thinking, or maybe even your day-to-day? What kinds of things are you concentrating on?
Well, that pretty much depends. So what my job here is that I organize, I set up, and I facilitate innovation workshops with different customers, being from smaller customers to even like huge corporations or like the biggest vendors in whole Europe and all that. So in my position here, I'm responsible for the whole Central Eastern European area. So all the different countries come to this place here, the Business Technology and Innovation Center, and we're doing workshops here. So I help them at the beginning of finding out what is the real problem of the customer. Yeah, what do we have to address here? Because first of all, these are just rooms I have here. So it's set up everything for design thinking. I have a lot of whiteboards, flip charts, sticky notes, whatever you can use. But the most important thing is getting down to the topic that could be really interesting for a customer. The great thing is here at Atos, globally, we have more than 150 scientific community members. So that means we have experts that are working on the trend topics that will emerge in the next 5 to 7 years. So there's also a publication they're bringing out every 2 years. It's called the Atos Journey. where you can read a lot about like what is going to happen, but not just from a technology side, but also from how will trends emerge, how will people start or change to communicate, how will it change to work. And they're all about human-centric right now. So it's like the key message of the current journey is like, there are things you could do technically, but you should always think about if you should do it, yeah, because you might get into the wrong direction. So I got 150 plus scientific community members, which in every workshop make an intro. So they are presenting the trends and the system they have set up. But on the other hand, they also getting the customer right into the right branch thinking. So what is the whole industry, where is working all about? So the one thing, this is working out pretty good. I can offer that in a workshop. And then I have access, and this is just awesome, to over 2,000 experts, so subject matter experts that are working in IoT, in quantum computing, in crypto, in blockchain, in development, in communication, in whatever you may think of. So when we are doing a client innovation workshop here, we can offer right away the scientific community member and the experts. So we can start with the sort of subject matter expert interview without even touching the problem, but getting the customer in the right mood, and he knows what is going on in the whole world. And of course, we can also bring the references, because Atos worldwide, with its over 140,000 employees, I learned that before the video session started, is doing a lot of solutions worldwide, which are just like incredible. So I also have the references to show that it's not just a marketing slide, but that it has worked out. So coming back to what am I using for a design thinking or design sprint, is like subject matter experts is what I have in every innovation workshop. Of course, I do some problem framing with the customer, so letting the customer speak, what is the real problem, what the need is. And as soon as we find out that that might be a possible solution and not getting into the real problem, we are offering information around the topic and the solutions that might bring the customer to a change of the perspective, that his need is something different. So he doesn't like the aggregated data layer for storing IoT data. He needs to transform his silo solution into one big thing where he can gather data and understand his business processes better, or can optimize it. And regarding the lightning decision gems, yes, I use them during the client workshops. So sometimes where we see like, okay, we have a lot of experts and the problem from the customer is not that clear, we take the lightning decision gem right into place and we go for it. And afterwards also create the actionables, which we can deliver within 2 weeks. And last but not least, for every workshop at the end, not just that I'm taking notes and writing everything down, so it's visual and on a whiteboard, we're also going to set up like, okay, what are the things we can do first? What does help you the most, dear valued customer? What can create the highest impact, and how big is the effort? So if we're doing just a normal workshop, at least we're taking the last part for the lightning decision gem, where we are like setting up possible solutions on the impact effort scale. Yeah. And this is working so good, because on the one hand, of course, as we are not just doing it for the kicks, we want to make projects. That makes sure that we're really going forward with a follow-up for the next current step, where we can deliver something together with the customer that is valuable in a very short time.
From your perspective, do you see the practice or the discipline of design thinking, or even design sprints, do you feel like you have direct access to the evolution of how that process will change over time, especially with different audiences?
Yes, I need to say yes, because like when you read the book, you have a standardized process. And like when you now read in the internet, you see, okay, there's a design sprint 2.0, 3.0, a 2D design sprint and all that. Mm. So I see right now that there is a lot of change and let's say creative solutions of setting up something that you can call a sprint, which just means you're iterating within a short amount of time, offering a solution to that. So what we of course get is like, if we now still here walk to a customer and say, okay, well, what we could offer is scientific community experts, other experts, but you have to bring in 5 to 7 of your top expert people, and setting them free for 5 days. It's like, no. So that would be sort of a first reaction. So what I see is like the evolvement of the type and the process of the sprint is that you really need to see what is working with your customer. And the bigger customers can say, okay, we can go for a 2-day workshop, that's fine. We can even go for a 3-day workshop, but getting them to a 4-day workshop is not, that's getting very hard. So this is why I understand why a lot of companies and agencies now switch to say, okay, like, let's do the first 3 days. We are going into prototyping, we are going into testing, and we are delivering you that solution or the outcome afterwards. And then you can go in an iteration. And for me, that totally makes sense. And as you said at the beginning, where you put in a lot of people to my sprint, I can say prototyping is, wow, that sometimes can be very difficult to manage, especially if you have a customer who is not like trained and doesn't know how that it's just like easy going that you can prototype something with Lego or with cardboard. So that makes sense if you take that out. But on one hand, you need to make sure that you're prototyping something the customer afterwards still likes. Because if not, he will say, no, I don't like that solution. I don't care what your user research brought for. And this is the only thing you have to take care about. I think this is an evolution you see, especially if you take in sprints to larger organizations.
Yeah, there's some, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
You were going to say.
Well, they're just like calculating on their people and how much are they costing, and I cannot take them out of the daily business. So it's way easier to offer them a 3-day sprint and maybe a follow-up with the prototype and the user research than a 5-day sprint right now. This is what I would say. And I think sprints will settle down on that thing, because you cannot make it shorter than 3 days. You're just not getting the quality.
I'm sensing that, well, let me fall back a bit. The original 5-day design sprint was based on the notion that you were working, that was a situation for a startup where you had everyone that knew everything about their domain. There was no kind of hierarchy of different people that were involved. It literally was the subject matter experts were built into the process, and that you were going to come to some sort of conclusion with people that had a lot of time to kind of give. It's been proven out in the past couple of years that, you know, a startup mentality or kind of grouping needs to be rethought when you're considering that process for different organizations, different groups of people. I think that you're right in that 5-day is a romantic notion. The reality is that it's closer to 2 or 3 days, with the idea that you're being flexible. So the Global Virtual Design Sprint is built upon the notion that you really have 2 days of intense activity, or at least 3 hours everyone gets on. Everything else is done passively offline that caters more towards people's schedules, when they can get involved. They can leave artifacts for people to look at. Everyone knows the deadlines, so that there's no issue there. The other thing also is that I'm finding that prototyping, while it would be great if it could be done in a day, people actually need more time to get it done, to the point where they feel confident behind what they do. So more often than not, when I'm engaging people on structuring their design sprints, they're really talking a 2-week engagement, almost like a standard Scrum enterprise bandwidth. So you have the Monday and Tuesday, it usually works out. Then the storyboard and the prototyping go from Wednesday all the way into the weekend. And then Monday through Wednesday and Thursday is when you start doing your testing. And then Friday is the retrospective and the report. Because the prototype and the test seem to be 2 dimensions that are okay if you lose a little bit of momentum, but you still know when the deadlines are. And it allows people to kind of do a little bit more like fact finding, like maybe a little bit of Q&A. So that's where I think it breathes a little bit better. But I agree with you. I don't think the 5-day, potentially even the 4-day is realistic, given all of the things in the enterprise that are kind of vying for your attention and that need to be done.
Yeah, I'm pretty with you. It's like, yeah, it would be nice to have it like in 4 days, because if you have the people in the room, it's just like an experience. It's not just about the solution. It's about like the people change over a design sprint. So their mind, they change their attitude, they change the way how they are talking to them. You can see that, for example, also with design thinking workshops, with their normally like 2 days, and you have some like first ideas and all that. So this is something also very important, that the way people are talking to each other, or even building a network, because they might be assembled from different departments. Yeah, that is set up. But there's also one thing, what I saw in the last time is regarding being live with those 2 or 3 days, or having them virtual. Because like April, yeah, there was nobody in the room, and at the maximum we had 14 people working together. And the good thing is, like, there was the same momentum, because I was wondering is, can you create that exact same momentum or that feeling of commitment when you're just doing it virtual? Yeah? Or is it something you can just experience if you have the people in the room? And what I find out now is like, yes, it is possible. And from your feeling and your own commitment, if you're into the project, of course, that makes no difference. It's easier to switch off. So if you not attend the session, you do not attend the session. That will be harder if it would be in real life. But if you're into the topic, you have exactly the same feeling. But as you don't have to have the breaks together, and have the lunch together, and have some talking in between the sessions and all that, you can really just like make it happen that you get the same results, or pretty much the same results, that you can achieve with a life. And this was very impressive. I was like, okay, wow, yeah, that can happen. Like, you know, the story about our prototyping, which was, it was taking a little bit longer than 5 p.m. Okay, yeah. But at the next day at 9 o'clock, Catherine in France was able to do the first interview. And that was something you, on the other hand, you could not have done in a real life. Yeah? I'm also with the first 3 days, those have to be like powerful. Yeah? If you say, okay, I have energy and whatever, I want to invest in a project, go for the first 2 days, optimum for the 3 days, because prototyping is not for everyone. So sometimes you just like standing around and say, okay, can I help you? You want a coffee? Well, it looks nice. Yeah. So you just like, you want to help, but on the other hand, you just like distracting the person that is working on the prototype itself. So on the other hand, you might get feel, so, okay, they're not using me anymore. I can, whatever, I'm sorting sticky notes now back to the block.
So I have a tip for that. So I found that, yeah, there's the same thing. Everyone's kind of standing around while the people that can actually do the prototype are doing it. And everyone else is kind of like, what do I do? Or what, you know, am I done here? And then do we come back just for the tests? One really useful task that you can have people do is, especially if they're advisors or if they're people that are in program management, they start to set the stage with stakeholders early around what they are going to expect the following week, or even in 2 weeks, around deliverables, the expectations. Maybe they can give a report on what happened early on through like a quick email, and start socializing and preparing the situation for when you produce your results or you showcase what happens. They become really effective carriers of communication for what happens within the session. But sometimes you have to have that conversation ahead of time to say, okay, you know, this is now your role. You've done your design sprint, fantastic. But now while people are working on the prototype, here's what you can really help out with. Like just helping maybe the researcher to make sure that we get the right people in the room, or talking to stakeholders and letting them know what happened, giving their impressions. Those kinds of things can kind of be worked out.
Right, and there was one thing you said the last time when we made the sprint, and this was also a very good advice. You said like, go and set times where you do a check-in and tell everybody. So not like that everybody's checking in and taking whatever, looking at the mural board, or is there something, an update, or writing an email or on Slack. So for example, if you decide that prototyping starts at 10 o'clock, then it should start at 10 o'clock. But just the people that are doing prototyping should then meet. You can do a first check-in like 1 o'clock, so at lunchtime, to see, okay, is it clear? Because also for a facilitator, that would be a point to say, okay, if I need to change anything in the process, I still could do something. And then if you have that check-in at 1 o'clock, just go for like 3:30-ish, 4 o'clock for checking back, because you cannot do any big changes anymore. Yeah?
Right.
you mess up with the prototype, you messed up. It doesn't matter if you came back at 3 o'clock or at 4, but you're giving the people time. And you can then see the progress. So if you have 2 check-ins the day where all people come in, have a short 5-minute video session, that's fine. It doesn't distract the prototypers, and you can still be part of the thing and get some feedback, or just go and say, okay, I would have done it so much better. But it's like, yeah, then you should have to.
Another thing that really helps is recording and access. So recording your sessions so that people can watch them later on when they have time, and also for historical narrative. And then also with being able to have people drop in and see what's going on. So if there's a prototype going on, you have a live feed that basically gets broadcast. And it's like, okay, is it screen sharing? Is it just everyone is looking at the same Figma or mural, so that you basically can drop in screens and then people can have side conversations. You doesn't have to necessarily, those don't have to be recorded, but people can drop in at any time and see the progress of what's happening and how things are evolving. And that's something that really works in a virtual environment, like a virtual design sprint. That way, you don't have to physically drop into a room or make a phone call. It's just right there, and it's always available for people to check out.
And of course, it's nice to give the prototypers the feeling that you care about them. Yes, of course. But I think you're totally true with that. And on the other hand, please, if I would do it again, I would not directly deploy every step I do in a prototype in the live version, because there is anyone checking the prototype right now and say, oh no, this is wrong. No, we have done it that way. So you're still starting the conversation and you think he needs to communicate on that. So having like version check-ins regularly where you can really see something, okay, that happened right now. This is a complete screen. That's really helpful. If you're just setting a button and you're saving it and deploying it, and then they will come like, oh no, the button should be gray and whatever. So please be patient with that. And for sure, you will have a testable prototype. At the beginning, the expectations are that you're building like a whole solution, which is not going to happen. And
no, this is, the analogy I always make is that it is the 15 to 20 second promo that you see at the beginning of a film before you actually see the movie, where it'll give you the best sci-fi kind of looking thing, like a new Avengers movie. It's just going to show like a clip of it. And it'll give you a taste of what's to come, but it'll give you a flavor for the most important piece of it. And sometimes you have to relay that to your sprint team saying, look, less is more. Don't try to build the boat. You're really concentrating on just getting the oars right, or basically some aspect of it that's really vital. And that's usually the facilitator's job, but especially for people that are new to virtual design sprints or design sprints in general, you don't have to build Rome in a day. Just work out some of the most important pieces that are conversation starters, and then you're in good shape.
Right, and on the other hand, that brings way more valuable information or user feedback, because like right now, last week we had a design thinking workshop, and at the time where we started to do like, okay, now let's fix the prototype and start the prototype, I was using the process which we have used to, where you have a starting point and an end point, and you put in the screens in between. And we were like, okay, this is a great idea, and let's have that screen, and let's have that screen, and let's have that screen, and whatever. So even creating that prototype would have taken us like a very long time, and especially also the testing afterwards. And the bigger your prototype is and the longer the scenery you're going to test, the more inaccurate the user feedback can afterwards be taken into a new iteration, because then you turn, oh yeah, that's nice. But you don't know what is nice. Is the first thing nice, the second, the fifth, the 25th, or whatever? So
it's like your eyes are bigger than your stomach. So
exactly.
you feel like you can eat a whole bunch, but really your appetite is about this big, not this big.
Right. So I think like if you scope on 3 major items, which you will have in a short testing scenery, and you say, this is the must, we have to deliver this. Yeah. So you're just like, okay, that's the minimum way we have to deliver, where you say, okay, the customer will say, okay. Yeah. Then you go into the performance track where you say, okay, which thing do we have to add on that the customer will say, okay, nice. Yeah. And then afterwards, you can go to the other parts and say, okay, what are the things you can say, like, okay, creating the real wow effects. Okay? Of course, if you're working on a solution, you have to bring in something that is new, but the word new and innovation is not always disruptive. It's just like new, and it should make sense, and it should like point to anything like saving time, making it more comfortable, saving money, and all the things. But if you're going like for the must, then the performance thing where you say, okay, like nice, and then you're going for the outer feature, you say like, okay, creating the real wow effects. I think then you should be fine for setting up a prototype and also afterwards testing it.
Yeah, if you set your target on modern, if you go present day without trying to think too far in the future, I found that if you keep your focus on just modern and can keep it up to speed with what's currently in the environment, that lends itself to, well, now that we have the modern version, what if we tweaked this thing slightly so it did this based on, you know, something they knew was coming up. Then you start kind of swimming in innovation. You don't feel like you have to jump to 2 years or 5 years or 10 years time. You're really just dealing with what you have and then projecting out a bit in the future. And then that could probably lend you to some interesting paths on where you can go. One question go ahead.
Yeah, no. I was just saying exactly. Yeah, right.
So one question I do have for you, Friso, is that you said you have access to like you know, thousands of people in different disciplines, you know, different spaces. They come from I want to say like chemical engineering, or they come from all sorts of backgrounds. Do you find that when you start introducing design thinking or these different workshops, that they would want to introduce some of the processes that they do to kind of mix in with what you're kind of proposing? Like it'll spark a thought in their mind saying, oh, well, we kind of do it like this. Could we introduce this into the workshop?
Well, two things. It's like I did not bring in design thinking or sprints itself into Atos. So this is already running, and we have some other kind of very interesting formats. So to say like, yeah, especially the scientific community members really bring in, it's like, okay, we should address this. And these are more interesting things. And of course, we're also testing things out because as you said, yes, I do have a quantum computing absolute chief master, whatever in charge who can tell you everything about that. I'm like, just like, I know it's fast, or yes, it's fast. And it, okay. He's absolutely brilliant, but because he's brilliant, everyone wants to know how to get information. So we're also testing about how is it working to bring in one of those experts with the video session during our course. Yeah? And is it working on screen? Is it just presenting the slides, or do people expect them to be here in the room? What we now have taken, we have a robot from healthcare. Yeah, so this is normally taken a robot where a doctor can really control on his keypad and go to the bed of a patient, and we then say like, okay, hi, I need to tell you, you have 3 days left, no, 30 days left, whatever. But we use that for bringing in the experience, the experts into that session, and so they can see it. But of course, like having them in the room is something great. And yes, the subject matter experts, they are always bringing in new topics. They're bringing in like, that could be interesting for that customer. We could do it in that format. We should have a topic covered like that. I just made a video where I'm explaining that solution. So they're bringing in a lot of stuff which I just like can use. And I'm also not the only business technology innovation center. So there are 9 worldwide right now. A lot of exchange. So they're telling each other what showcase has been set up, what is working, what showcase can be connected to the other. It's like, if we're talking about IoT sensoric, we have some showcases where all the machines are in all the BTICs worldwide and just like talking to each other. So you can set up an industry scenery where you really have 9 machines worldwide working, and you see if there's something differently, and can watch in the digital twin. So there's 3 layers. Scientific community reflects and brings in the topics. Yeah. Some very innovative and creative guys have already set up different processes. I can explain one afterwards, which is just a nice format. The bringing in cool content, and the BT itself is that's a network where they exchange after every workshop. It's like, okay, that's the materials, that's what we used, this is what was working great. We should do that and that and that. So it's a great thing for learning and evolving that worldwide setup with every workshop that is taking place in any country. Afterwards, you can just like go and get the material and just learn, and afterwards take it for your customers. So this is just awesome.
So for everyone that's watching, I think it's Jerome and Kim and Jason, if you have questions within Zoom, go ahead and use the Q&A portion of the program, or you can just basically put it right in chat. For those of you watching on YouTube, we are taking questions as well. So if you want to pose a comment or a question in the chat and the live stream, I mean, feel free to do so. We'll be taking those in just a few minutes. But until then, I have one other question for you, Friso, about the goings-on in Atos. So you said that design thinking and design sprints are pretty much, I mean, it's part of the conversation that's going on there. Do you see anything from your perspective that is a bit cutting edge or some kind of like forward thinking? Like, are you getting different impressions of topics like circular design or the 6-week development life cycle of like getting projects done? Is there any particular theme or some sort of topic that seems to be catching ground within Atos?
Well, yes, it is, because what I said at the beginning is that we are capable of helping the customer from the very beginning to the total delivery. But of course, after every workshop, the question is like, okay, and what is the next step? So now thinking about like offering different solutions or something we could deliver, proof of concepts and all that, it is of course getting or taking a bit more ground to iterate with the customer. So on the one hand, it's a real, what we worked out is a pretty good handover. It's like directly from the testing of an iteration into the backlog of a production line, so that you have the complete loop and therefore follow the technical development. And on the other hand, it's of course like making sure that iteration also of the solution is taking place after some weeks. I wouldn't say that we're now using a framework like the 3-month framework where we say like, okay, we're doing problem framing workshop, we're doing a design sprint, we're doing a follow-up sprint, and after 3 solutions or 3 sprints, we have delivered the thing. Not that it is a basic or a standard. We have done it. We have created an awesome project for a humanitarian organization. So they are now capable of setting up a whole humanitarian organization if there's any disaster worldwide within 24 hours with doing such sprints and follow up. But I think it needs to evolve a little bit more and also get more trust from the customer, that he says like, okay, yeah, I want to go the next step and the next step. And can you really assure me that after 3 months, you really have a solution I can sell or make money with? So this is now starting to work out, but of course you have to build trust, and the trust level has to be, okay, yes, I'm working with you all the time. And of course, it's on the other hand, it's always like, if you are working on like huge solution, it's always about, it's like, if you would set up a project like that, it's like in a million area. So you don't have the decisions afterwards pretty fast. So sometimes that creates a gap from, okay, we were talking about the solution, that would be a good thing to go, making all the contracting and setting up the budget for taking this. So we're now working at what could we do in between to get something going and not start with the project or the implementation afterwards. But it has to be done in that way. You're muted?
Yes. I had something going on in the background. I was like, I didn't want it to hear going all the time. And like, I want you to talk. But Kim had a related question that she posted in Zoom. She said, do clients have to be sold, in quotes, on the idea of doing a design sprint, or is it a familiar process to most of your clients? And if you have to sell the idea, how do you typically explain it?
Do we have to sell the idea? Or
yeah. Yeah, if you have to sell the idea of the design sprint to clients, what is there? Are they already familiar with it, or do you have to explain it to them?
Going with the sprint, I think that's more a new thing. Yeah, so it's not like, especially here in Austria, it's like not a lot of people are doing sprints. There are some great sprinters already out there within agencies, but to be honest, some things like a bit more familiar word is like design thinking. So we're talking about design thinking for a very long time. So it's way easier to offer the customer a design thinking workshop or a design thinking format and then just use the sprint methods to stuff it and get to the results.
So you're not explicit with just saying this is a design sprint. It's more like we're going to use these particular. Well, you're not going to tell them the how. You're just going to make sure you're clear on the outcome, and then you figure out what the best method is what I'm hearing.
Right, because it's from the stories. We are all involved into design sprints. We've read the book. We know Jack Knapp. We know John Saratsky and all that. So if you never heard of that, it's like, okay, you cannot really do something with that, but you will have heard design thinking. And we also offer in different formats, for example, like a StratHack, which is just like a sprint, absolute focus on strategy. So just with the strategy and the CEOs, for example. So at the end of the day, it's design sprint, or most of the design sprint methodologies put into a special format. But the most things I see right now is that we're starting with the design thinking offering and just replacing the different things in the double diamond with sprint methods.
Got it. Just depending on what the situation is, strategy or maybe delivery or customer service or whatever it may be, getting an idea of the strengths of the people coming to this, and then working out what would be the outcome and how to get there through those activities.
Right.
Got it.
Within that, we created like 2 special formats. It's one, what I mentioned is the StratHack, where we really say, okay, this is focused, where we are also talking with the strategy departments of the customers, and say, let's go, and we're using a lot of, like, I would say a shortened sprint or an enlarged lightning decision gem with just like way more info on a strategical thing. And on the other hand, we're offering block hacks, where we just like go over a sprint iteration in a showcase where we are really testing if it makes sense and how it makes sense to use the blockchain for a different part of a supply chain, or in the financial service, or insurance service and all that. So this is really a format we're offering right now.
So the StratHacks, it's StratHacks.
Right.
If people do a search for that on Google, they're going to will they get more information about how to learn about that?
Well, just a little, I would say right now. We're doing that a lot in the UK, and we're now onboarding a little bit more into the CE. I think I should be capable of presenting to the participants of the GVDS some sort of a short overview of what it's all about. Maybe not in the total depth, but I think they can afterwards work with that, with the info we can set that up.
Yeah, I mean, so someday when it's ready for public presentation, I would definitely want to look at it. It would be something I was interested in, just because it's the variations on all these themes that are the current life cycle of anything design sprint related. It's just customization for the situation and the context. I mean, that's the game right now. It's like everyone knows what it is and knows design thinking. Now it's like putting the pieces together and effectively executing on it.
Right. And there's also, if you, the question was like how to sell it. It's what I saw, for example, if you're telling people, depends on what country you are, and coming with very fancy names like, okay, dear customer, I will show you how a design sprint could like change your whole business. First of all, we're going to have a lightning decision gem. He's like, what do you want to sell me right now? It's like, what, lightning?
Yeah.
Sorry to say that the method is brilliant, but what I called it the last time was like a 90-minute decision finding workshop.
Yes.
And that on the C level was like,
no, it's smart. You change the language. You don't necessarily use the nomenclature if it doesn't make sense, and you just make something that's more common language. Say it again one more time so that people understand. So I hear it again. You said 90-minute what?
The 90-minute decision maker workshop. Decision workshop. This is what I said. Because what happens then afterwards? Like, what do you mean with 90 minutes making decisions? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So within that, you're presenting the result in the name of the offering. So this was the first time I was like, okay, let's do within 90 minutes, we can go for the decisions. I was like, I was like, yeah, it's a 90-minute decision-making workshop.
That's brilliant.
And this is something where you say, okay, yes, there's no customer who cannot afford 1.5 hours. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, if you present him that you will do that in 90 minutes with takeaways of 3 action enablers with current step 1, 2, 3, what you can do. He might just ask for more, just more of that, because you see this is working.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it may, yeah.
No, I was gonna say, and you can also build in accountability into the model. So you'll have your things at the end, but it's like, who is going to adopt those particular things? And then people can take that forward, and then the conversation starts getting meaningful around where people are gonna take it.
Exactly. And this is just like such a great thing. And the only thing you have to take care about is like, if you see that customers say, okay, yes, that 90-minute decision-making workshop was so great, I just want to have those. Yeah, you might not be able to sell design sprints like as a direct follow-up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What I also saw during my last position was like, okay, this is working. And the great thing, it was working with every level. It didn't matter at all. And also like the kind of person. There are some person who just need to have like tables, yeah, and write everything down. Mm-hmm. Other people who want to have just like a different other structure. There are people who are just like going for decisions. They are the ones who don't want to make decisions. And that was working out with every person and every team. Like I had the hardest seller with just saying, no, I know how the market works. I know what to sell. And I had the easiest, like, okay, let's go for everything. Every time it worked out and we were at the point. So we started to do one lightning decision gem after the other. And this is also okay. So just go for pricing, which is not too low for a lightning decision gem or a 90-minute decision-making workshop, because otherwise the customer might buy 10.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if they see and experience the results. Then it's something where it's like, okay, they get a flavor for how you execute. They get an idea of how you think. It becomes more of an impression of, do they like you or not? And are you bringing something of value to them? So I totally get all of that. So by the way, you have a vote of confidence from Jason LeNinth. He says, Friso is the man. I had the good fortune to work with him back in the April Global Virtual Design Sprint where I joined his team late. He did a great job as a co-facilitator. I absolutely agree. I already know that. You were kind of celebrated by your peers at the Spotlight Awards, so I got the indication from the audience that you were someone that was highly tuned into getting people together around the event, or basically your design sprint. And also, Jerome has kind of a tongue-in-cheek question. He's just kind of joking. He says, no, I won't even get into that. It's about Fortnite. Are you familiar with Fortnite at all, or no?
Jeroen, ik zal je laten eens even opbellen en vragen wat je wou.
Are you familiar with Fortnite?
He speaks in Dutch, so he could just put in the question in Dutch, and I will get it maybe.
Okay, but then I'll try to say it in Dutch and see if it actually comes across good at all. But his serious question says, how do you see creative collaboration emerge in the next 5 years?
I don't really see it emerging. I just see it happening, and it is so necessary. So I think right now, all the corporates are understanding that it is a vital part, so they can be successful within the next years. So I think within the next 2 years, it still might be, it's like, okay, where can we put the innovation department? Should we put it in our own department? Should I put it into strategy? There is a real big point for that. I would tell the nearer it is at the strategy department, the better work they can do and deliver. Yeah. And of course, companies have to trust in the process, also that people will deliver that. Mm-hmm. So within the next couple of years, we will have bigger departments and it's like growth hacking units starting directly at the strategy department and like trying within the company, okay, we did a little achievement, let's make it better. So it's innovation in big corporations is like growth hacking in itself for making better processes. It's going to happen within the next couple of years.
The other thing I see happening is that now that there's more access for people to kind of put their stamp on what they do and communicate who they are and what they're all about, there's going to be a real kind of draw for particular talent, people that are authorities in certain areas, because they're going to be so needed to really give context around a particular product or direction or something that a company or even an organization wants. So you have the creative collaboration, of course, and the trying to break down the friction points between people. Like things that automatically, when you speak into it, like you speak Dutch into Zoom, it's going to come back to me in English, and it's going to sound like you, even though your lips are different. So it's literally like a kung fu movie in real time, but we're not doing any kind of kung fu. We're just basically translating. That's an example. But knowing that you're bringing certain people into a process that know, just to your point about getting people that are really deep in a particular vertical, that's going to be something that where creative collaboration is really going to, it'll be augmented by it. But that's going to have to be the thing that people are going to be aware of. It's like, who's the best person to have at the table to have this conversation, and how do we get them so that they're virtual, they have the time, we get the right information from them, and then we synthesize it in a meaningful way so that other people can digest it like naturally.
I think this is going to work in that direction, and I think we are now at the point where we are understanding the word collaboration and see what it really means, and creating something on top to make it better. And also, as you say, it's like what I brought with the example. I have now 2,000 experts worldwide, and I can just like call them up right away because we have an own communication solution. I can just type in the name and get right into the contact. And you remember our last talk, we are already working on the 4.0 version. We tried out now, which is coming
the
up.
virtual.
That's going to be awesome. I have a meeting on Wednesday on that. Yeah, so we're making that real for the next thing. And it's like, yes, because you have to make it accessible. You have to make more people accessible right at the point where you need them.
Sandy Lamb is going to have a heart attack if she has to start designing for a virtual environment because Mural doesn't really translate too well in that, but it'll be interesting.
I think it's going to work out because they have a lot of open APIs, and they could just we just need to figure out how you can write on the sticky notes. But even with that, voice to text, there could be a solution.
Here's a Black Mirror moment. Here's something where what may happen is that you actually have an AI start to learn who you are, and it becomes your voice avatar. So it starts to understand what you typically do, what your thoughts are on certain topics. It starts recording what we're saying, and it starts to learn kind of your point of view on things, even where you start deviating by subject. And it gets smart enough to the point where if you're not available, like if Friso's not available, I want his avatar in the room. So the avatar will grab things that it doesn't know and then relay it back to you and say, by the way, this question was asked. And then it says, okay, and then you just speak. And now it captures another dimension of your thought, and it becomes like your little mini brain, so that I can basically get all of those creative people in a room without you having to be there, and it still represents you.
Right. I mean, this is getting it pretty far, because then you really have a connection for the brains, and I think nobody wants to design a brain connector for my brain. But on the other hand, it's like getting AI so far that it is learning from your current behavior, like different processes, standard responses, what you're looking at, how you do things. Yes, this is what we are working on and what we already delivered. So machine learning is such a nice word. Yes, we are using it in the total industry, and like machines worldwide are monitored. And as soon as there's like slightly different processes are already starting, because the AI recognized, okay, that it was working out in another way. So yes, this is something what we are working on, and we know it's going to come because we have projects on that. So
yeah,
that's an awesome thing. But also like I think the kind of work will change. So where people work, how people work, and in what kind of environments. I think we're going to see a lot of things like augmented reality will be a big part of our next years coming up. So HoloLens is where you have the normal reality mixed up and still working on seeing the kids. And on the other hand, the way of communication, what you see, it's like the live translation. Yes, that has to be a part of it, and not just in a beta version that just has to work.
Agree. Okay, so we're almost out of time. Let everyone know that's listening in and that will watch the recording later where they can go to find out more about you. Right now, I know that it's LinkedIn, and then there's a business website, but is there anything else they should be tracking between now and the end of the year around the things that you're going to be doing?
Well, on the one hand, of course, like the itself, and also they could also look up like what the Atos is doing in their countries, like worldwide. We're doing a lot of stuff, and of course we're happy and proud that we're sponsoring and making the whole Olympic Games possible. So we're doing all the technical stuff behind there. I think it might be interesting always to check back regarding artificial intelligence and supercomputing and also quantum computing. That might be interesting. And on the other hand, I can just like offer, just like if you want to have any information, if you are in the Vienna area and want to visit the BTEC here, just give me a call. I'll be happy to tell you more about Atos. And I think some of our customers will be so happy with the StratHacks and the sprints we're doing. We're not allowed to talk about that, but that's okay. But
we just know that you're doing amazing.
There's one last thing I would really like to mention, because there's an innovative thing going on right now. There's like some colleagues from Switzerland are now setting up the Kickbox. It's like getkickbox.com is the advertisement. It's about inner innovation and entrepreneurship, which is a program which they're now setting up as an open source project. And as we always talking about the sprints and the forwards and the way people are working within corporations, it always makes sense to reflect back. It's like how you can take inner innovation one step further in your own company. So this is an advertisement I had to place. I didn't get paid for that, but that's fine.
That's okay. I'm glad you did it. And you had a little bit of entertainment in the back that I don't think people saw, but that's okay.
Oh, that's perfect.
All right.
But, I have something for he can play with that afterwards.
Hey, Alvin, come here. He's actually showing you something from this from Austria. Would you want to play with that?
Hi there. That's a legal technical.
This is Friso, by the way. He's about to go. He has to go. He's been talking to me for about an hour.
That's right. The next time. Or you need to finish it because there's the whole container coming back on that. That's going to be perfect. But this is also part of my job because we're working with Vico Technic to create showcases. This is, for example, for IoT Technic. And yeah, that's a lot of fun here.
Cool. All right. Friso, I'm going to go take care of this little guy. Thank you so much for coming on, having this conversation with GVDS Presents. And I'm sure we're going to talk in a couple weeks anyway. And, you take care of yourself, okay? Thanks a lot for your time.
Let's do it. And all the people enjoy the sprints. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye. Bye, Friso.
Bye.